So my name's Nicole Ruiz. I'm with the National Security Studies Institute. I'm a grad student. And today I want to talk to you guys about economic methodology for intelligence analysis. Before we jump into the current research and start looking at the future of economics and intelligence, we need to first step back and make sure we're on the same page. Economics at its foundation is about fulfilling unlimited wants with limited resources. So what does this mean? It means that we have to make decisions on how to best allocate our resources. Now, I think we can all agree that time itself is a valuable resource. Do we wake up early in the morning to go for a run? Do we go out with some friends when we have an essay due next week? Do we attend a panel to listen to students talk about their research when we have other obligations? This is just one approach to economics. This is the economics of everyday life, making these types of decisions. But there are other approaches to this as well, the most common of which just so happens to be business. And business because there are a lot of resources and there's the production factor. But there's more to economics than just business. If you're looking at economics as a business science, you're missing out on the bigger picture. Because economics is essentially a social science. And I remember being an undergrad majoring in economics, and I somehow managed to find my way in an intelligence course. Thank goodness for that. And I remember looking at what we were studying in economics and then going back to my class in intelligence and noticing these patterns where what I was learning in economics was relevant to the issues being talked about in my intelligence course. Now, this isn't the first time that economics has been taken outside of a business context. In fact, during World War II, economists were pulled into the government not just to help manage the economy and make sure production was running smoothly at home, but also to help out with negotiations, to map out the different options that we had and the different options that our negotiating partners had. They were even pulled in to look at targets for bombing rates, high-value targets for bombing rates, and they would look at the collateral damage that could result and the impact this would have on our enemies. Now, I've identified three major subfields of economics which are applicable to intelligence as of right now and have already been explored a little bit by people much smarter than myself. And these are econometrics, game theory, and defense economics. And I'm going to run through each of these and explain how they've been applied and what this could mean. So econometrics is essentially statistics for economists. So if you've taken statistics or you have a strong grasp of statistics, that's essentially econometrics. And this has been applied in time series regressions where we look at patterns happening over time. In one study, an individual looked at the killing patterns of cartels in Mexico. And so what he did was look at the harvesting season for opium, and he took that and looked at the deaths associated with cartel members. And what he found was that the deaths associated with cartel members were correlated to the opium harvesting. And so what this means, and the implication for this, is that law enforcement can predict with a high degree of confidence when cartels are going to become more active, when they're more volatile, when they value human life less, and they're more willing to put forth the resources to protect their product. And this also helps educate the general public because they'll know when to be more aware of their surroundings and more aware of what's going on in the world. And hopefully by doing this and by acknowledging these correlations, they will be able to mitigate the amounts of deaths associated with cartels. Now, the other thing I talked about was game theory. And I mentioned this before in the negotiation aspect where we're mapping out different things. And what we can do with game theory is look at terrorist organizations and our options with them. So an example that I used in my paper was we have the United States and a terrorist organization. In the United States, we have two options. We can either choose to negotiate or we can choose not to. And because of our non-negotiation policy, we already have that area of our decision mapped out. Now, when it comes to the terrorist organizations, they can choose to either act or not act. And when they act, they're more likely to attack. And because the benefits outweigh the cost in this instance, they will choose to act almost every time. And I'm assuming a rational actor model in this case, and I know it may sound a little strange to associate rationality with terrorist organizations, but that's not the case. Terrorist organizations, although not necessarily rational in their ideology, are rational in the way they decide how to attack and what to attack. And so that's what we're looking at. And another area is defense economics. Now, defense economics is a little tricky because it's not widely recognized or accepted in the general field of economics. And that's because it's fairly new and it's taking economics outside of its business context. It's being unique in that respect because it looks at military and the way economics ties in with that aspect. And what defense economics has, which I find to be very interesting, is the economic theory of alliances. And what we're doing there is we're classifying security as a product. And what type of product security is, whether it's exclusive or a communal good, is determined by the structure of the alliance. And so if we understand that, we can understand the dynamics of alliances, and we can look at how our allies will react in certain situations, and how we can best react, and how we can influence them to act how we want to. Now, these are just some examples, and they're not exclusive. But what if we could push the boundaries just a bit more? What if we could take economics and apply it to even more levels of intelligence, even different types of areas? Like Dr. Mendel had mentioned yesterday, we can take it as a decision science and apply it to the administrative aspect. We can apply it to the analysis, pulling from the methodology. And we can even look at intelligence as a product. So the way in which economics would tie into all three of these aspects would be regarding the resource collection, which is an administrative aspect. It's resource allocation. That's the main thing about economics, and that's what we can use economics for, is to determine, do we put a satellite on the Middle East right now, or would our resources be best putting a human source there, trying to pull from that? And this all falls into the decision aspect of economics. And then we've got the analysis, and economics can be useful in analysis in multiple ways, just the way I had explained it before with the methodology and pulling from the methods. But it can also help analysts determine maybe when they've already reached the level where they need to stop looking for more sources and go forth with their analysis, a utility curve. Now, if we classify intelligence as a product, we're acknowledging that there are consumers and producers. In this case, the consumers are the policymakers, and the producers are the agencies or the individual analysts. And economics can help us understand the dynamics between these two things, between these two individuals and these two groups of people, because it'll help us understand that there's a demand for economics, and then there's the supply of economics, of intelligence, forgive me. But in order for us to push economics into what could potentially become the subfield intelligence economics, we need to facilitate a stronger dialogue between both economists and intelligence practitioners and theorists. We need to take it beyond what happened in World War II. The reason why World War II happened and the reason why economists were pulled in was because there was a demand for analysis. And now that demand has fizzled off a little bit, and we're not recognizing economics to its full potential. But when we have this stronger dialogue, we can have economists and we can have intelligence practitioners working together. And it's going to take a lot of time, and it's going to take a lot of effort for us to properly set up a subfield of intelligence economics so when we need it, there will be economists ready to adapt the methods and the methodology and the models to national security issues and be able to properly address what's needed at the time. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time.